In the early years of the 20th century, in the bustling city of New Orleans, a baby was born under the most unusual circumstances. Thomas Button, a wealthy businessman, rushed to the hospital to see his newborn son, only to be greeted by a sight that defied all logic. His child, Benjamin, was not a typical baby. He had the appearance of a man well into his 80s, with wrinkled skin, white hair, and a frail body. Horrified and confused, Thomas didn't know what to do. The doctors were baffled, and the nurses whispered in shock. Unable to face the truth, Thomas made the decision to leave the baby on the steps of a nearby nursing home. The matron of the home, Queenie, discovered the abandoned child and, despite his appearance, took him in as her own. She named him Benjamin and cared for him as if he were a normal baby, though everyone could see that he was anything but. As Benjamin grew, it became clear that he was aging in reverse. While the other children at the nursing home grew older, Benjamin seemed to get younger. By the time he was 12, he looked like a man in his late 60s. He had the body of an elderly man, but the curiosity and wonder of a child. As Benjamin grew up in the nursing home, he struggled to understand his place in the world. While his body seemed old and frail, his mind was young and vibrant. He spent his days with the elderly residents, learning their stories and finding comfort in their company. They treated him as one of their own, often forgetting that he was just a child in an old man's body. Despite the peculiarities of his life, Benjamin found joy in the small things. He loved the warmth of the sun on his face, the sound of the birds singing in the morning, and the feel of the wind against his skin. He also developed a deep love for music, especially the piano, which he played beautifully despite his arthritic fingers. But as the years went by, Benjamin began to feel the weight of his condition. He watched as the people he cared about aged and passed away while he grew younger. The world outside the nursing home was a place of mystery and wonder, but also fear and uncertainty. Benjamin longed to explore it, to live a normal life, but he knew that his condition made that impossible. One day, while Benjamin was sitting on the porch of the nursing home, a young girl named Daisy came to visit her grandmother. Daisy was full of life and energy, and she was immediately drawn to Benjamin. Despite the difference in their appearances, the two became fast friends. Daisy was curious about Benjamin, asking him questions about his life and the things he had seen. For the first time in his life, Benjamin felt understood. Daisy didn't see him as an old man or a child. She saw him as a person, someone who was different, but still worthy of friendship and love. The two spent countless hours together, playing games, exploring the nursing home grounds, and talking about their dreams and fears. As the years passed, Daisy continued to visit Benjamin, and their bond grew stronger. But while Daisy grew older, Benjamin grew younger. It was a painful reminder of the strange reality that defined his life. Despite their deep connection, Benjamin knew that their friendship could not last forever. As Benjamin approached his 20th birthday, he had the appearance of a man in his 50s. He realized that it was time for him to leave the nursing home and explore the world beyond its walls. Queenie, who had been like a mother to him, supported his decision, though it broke her heart to see him go. Benjamin set out into the world, determined to make a life for himself. He found work on a tugboat, captained by a man named Mike. The rough life at sea suited Benjamin, and he quickly adapted to the challenges of the job. He enjoyed the camaraderie of the crew and the freedom of being out on the open water. During this time, Benjamin also experienced love for the first time. He met a woman named Elizabeth Abbott, the wife of a British diplomat, while their ship was docked in Murmansk, Russia. Elizabeth was fascinated by Benjamin, and the two began a passionate affair. But as with everything in Benjamin's life, their relationship was fleeting. Elizabeth left him as quickly as she had entered his life, leaving Benjamin with a deep sense of longing and loss. When World War II broke out, Benjamin and Captain Mike's tugboat was recruited for military service. They were tasked with towing damaged ships and salvaging wrecks. The war was a brutal and terrifying experience, but it also brought out the best in Benjamin. He showed courage and resilience, earning the respect of his fellow sailors. Tragically, Captain Mike was killed during a mission, and Benjamin was left to navigate the complexities of war on his own. Despite the loss, he continued to serve with distinction, but the experience left him scarred. The horrors of war weighed heavily on him, and he found it increasingly difficult to reconcile his youthful appearance with the memories of the violence and death he had witnessed. After the war, Benjamin returned to New Orleans. He reunited with Queenie, who was now much older, and found solace in the familiar surroundings of the nursing home. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he was out of place, that his life was moving in the wrong direction. Years passed, and Benjamin, now looking like a man in his 30s, reconnected with Daisy. She had become a successful ballet dancer in New York, but an injury had ended her career. Despite the time and distance that had separated them, the bond between Benjamin and Daisy was as strong as ever. They fell in love, and for a brief moment, it seemed like they could have a normal life together. They bought a house and tried to build a life as a couple. But the reality of Benjamin's condition was always there, lurking in the background. Daisy aged, while Benjamin continued to grow younger. Eventually, Daisy became pregnant, and they welcomed a daughter into the world. But Benjamin knew that he couldn't stay. He couldn't bear the thought of his daughter growing up with a father who was getting younger by the day. He made the heartbreaking decision to leave Daisy and their daughter, knowing that it was the only way to protect them from the pain of his condition. As the years went by, Benjamin continued to grow younger. He wandered from place to place, trying to find peace with his fate. He kept in touch with Daisy, who was now an elderly woman, and they shared letters and phone calls. But he knew that his time was running out. Eventually, Benjamin returned to New Orleans and to the nursing home where he had been raised. By now, he was a child in appearance, but with the memories and experiences of a lifetime. Queenie had passed away, and the nursing home was under new management. The staff, unaware of Benjamin's true identity, took him in as an orphan child. Daisy, now in her 80s, visited Benjamin at the nursing home. She cared for him as he regressed further, becoming a toddler and then an infant. Daisy held him in her arms as he took his final breaths, closing the chapter on a life that had been anything but ordinary. Daisy lived on for a few more years, cherishing the memories of her time with Benjamin. She kept a diary of their life together, filled with stories of love, loss, and the peculiarities of living life in reverse. She passed away peacefully, knowing that Benjamin had lived a full life, even if it had been an unusual one. The story of Benjamin Button is one of acceptance, of finding love and meaning in a world that often doesn't make sense. It is a reminder that life, no matter how strange or difficult, is a journey worth taking, and that love transcends time, age, and the inevitable march toward the end.